Floppy Waffle 69 here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a full deep dive analysis on the Tier 8 Premium USN Light Cruiser, the San Diego.
They named it San Diego, which of course in German means a whale's vagina.
So the USS San Diego, why are we covering the USS San Diego, ladies and gentlemen? Well, this is the ship that you can earn completely for free by, I believe, doing in the event of update 14.7 in the name of tomorrow event with the 3 operations and all that jazz, collections and all that stuff. So that's why I wanted to showcase her, to kind of showcase what she's all about, what you're going to be getting, and potentially whether or not if she's worth it. Now, obviously, you can go back to other people's reviews of this ship. It's really not that date. It's not dated that back too far back actually that you could go back and check it out. But no one really has covered this ship in a little bit, and I wanted to be one of those guys that obviously is going to showcase what you are going to be get, even if it is an older premium, because I still think there's a lot of misconception of what this ship can do and what it does and what's its general overall purpose. Obviously, this is a very historical ship, very Battlestar ridden ship. And it is, I think, illustrated fairly well in game about what it kind of did in real life. It kind of tries to mimic that of its service history. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go right into it. I don't want to spend too much time in port because there is a lot to talk about, but I definitely want to showcase a little bit more about what this ship can and cannot do. So first things first, the San Diego's armor layout. The armor layout of the San Diego, obviously, it is that of an Atlanta class cruiser. It is an Atlanta class, right? We just basically took our Tier 7 Atlanta and we put her up to Tier 8 and we just tweaked a little bit of stuff. That being said, the armor, it's still paper thin. You have that 16 millimeter nose, you have that 16 millimeter ass, and now you have that 16 millimeter plating here in the midsection, coming in on a deck of indeed 16 millimeters and an armor belt of 89 millimeters. Looking at the step citadel that you can clearly see here as indicated, the citadel is definitely more midsection, so if you are planning on citadeling this ship, make sure to aim underneath the smokestack. A good rule of thumb is that it doesn't extend to the turret of 3 and to the turret of 6. It is going to be between turrets 4 and 5. And that is what's going to go extending right down to the citadel. So kind of try to aim for this area, and you can utilize your 2 smokestacks and these 2 turrets as kind of like your indicators. Again, this shouldn't be a ship too hard to citadel, especially if it's slightly angled to you, which is again what I would highly recommend when you shoot it. These super light cruisers, man, if they go flat broadside, there is a chance that they're just going to flat out. The AP shells, large caliber armor piercing will just flat out go right through them. You're just getting nothing but those pesky little overpens. You can see that it'll start to showcase the I guess not showcase, but basically it changes its profile that it's going to thicken its armor scheme, so therefore your armor piercing shells can go ahead and stick and detonate with inside the ship, getting those citadel ribbons, and if not, at a bare minimum, penetration. So the ship is very lightly armored, so it shouldn't be hard to do that much damage to her. So, and then the reminder that the citadel belt of this ship is more than that of the Tier 10 Smolensk, which the Smolensk is coming at 70 millimeters, and we all know how that thing is in regards to citadeling her when she's flat broadside. So, again, a Tier 8 ship having more armor than the totally realistic Smolensk. Going into the survivability of the ship, 27,900, very much so on the low end. There is one other ship that I believe does beat her out in regards of her health, in regards of how low it is, and that's the Harbin. But the Harbin, I believe, actually does have a heal as well. Does it have a heal? I have to double check on that. But the San Diego has a heal, which we'll talk about that in a bit to help mitigate that feature. Going into the artillery, we have the 8x2 127 millimeter Mark 12 and a Mark 29 mounts up on the ship. These are your standard, let's say, gearing guns. These are pretty standard on a lot of ships starting at Tier 8. It is like a secondary mount or as on your destroyer line as on your tier 10, the gearing, right? So main battery firing range on these bad boys are 14.8, which, okay, is a little bit on the lower end, but then we're a light cruiser with 127 millimeter guns, so we're going to have to factor that in. The reload time on these guns is 5.5 seconds, and then the 180-degree turn time is 7.2 seconds. Again, this is relatively quick, uh, pretty damn quick, right? You don't have. I wouldn't recommend taking grease the gears. You really don't need to at this point. That would just be a waste of a skill point that you can utilize in other aspects of the ship. Um, Going into her semi-armor piercing round. So this ship has SAP and armor piercing. Now it was very interesting that the devs decided to opt for semi-armor piercing and then not tailing that or accompanying that with HE. They decided to go with armor piercing, and that is a gameplay tactic of the ship that we're going to go into here. Once we show in game, but just know that the armor piercing on this ship is actually quite good. And we're going to get to that after we touch on the semi-armor piercing here, which is clocking in at a damage of 1800, which is actually pretty low. If you think about sap damage in this game, um, sap tends to be higher, usually, quote unquote, than armor piercing, but in this case, it's not. So that should be the first kind of like red flag of the ship to why that is. Okay, the armor penetration capacity on the SAP is 36 millimeters, which is not too bad. That's going to be obviously almost all your DD, basically all your DDs, and a lot of cruisers and specific parts of battleships. Shouldn't be too hard to utilize that 36 millimeters of a SAP penetration. Though it sucks, I kind of wish it was 38. 38 would have allowed you to pen a lot of battleships, such as like the Americans, the Royal Navy, um, British, like their upper belt armor, right, or their upper kind of like deck armor, right around here. That would really allow you to be a little bit more flexible. But hey, balance, I get it. 36 millimeters, we can definitely make do with that. And then again, the velocity of the ship is, or the initial velocity is 792 meters a second. Now, going into the armor piercing, clocking in a damage total of 2100 with, again, the same initial shell velocity of 792 meters a second, so it should be relatively comfortable. No extra lead time needs to be given between switching your AP and the semi-armor piercing. But now, why are we talking about the armor piercing? Well, first things first, the armor piercing actually has some different characteristics that need to be factored in, with the drag coefficient being 0.210, the flight time being, it's floaty-er, but it's not like Atlanta floaty, so kind of more straight line, flat lined, with the shell weight of 27 kgs. And then you go ahead and your Krupp has 2,598 with the penetration of 73 millimeters. Let's say at a range of 14 kilometers, it actually comes in like 79, and it can overmatch 7 millimeters of armor. And this fuse time is a little bit heightened or shortened at 0.01 or 0.010 seconds, so 0.010 seconds. So why are we talking about the armor piercing? Why I'm throwing out all these numbers, and what does this basically mean? Your lighter shell can basically, with the shell velocity that it has, can actually do really good damage, kind of like the Petro. So in regard, and I'm not comparing this thing to the Petro and saying, oh my God, this is going to be Soviet dispersion and Soviet laser beams. No, 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 no. Not what I'm talking about. These are not rail guns. But I do think that a lot of San Diego players are not taking advantage of the armor piercing, given the fact that it does more damage than your semi-armor piercing, and that it is a little bit more flatlined, meaning that you're going to have a higher chance of getting full pens than you will be getting of over pens or shatters. The penetration isn't terrible, especially if you aim on the right specific parts of the ship. I have citadeled cruisers with this thing. I have chunked battleships with this thing. I think the whole process or whole idea that Wargaming had was, yes, you have that easy pen semi-armor piercing mode, but we don't want just another flat out HE spammer here at tier 8. We want you to make use of both ammunition types. So I think you'd be severely limiting yourself if you only use the semi-armor piercing. Yes, the semi-armor piercing is going to be a little bit more universal. It means in more scenarios, it's going to be the correct ammo choice to use. But like the German DDs, the German cruisers, things like that, you really should be min-maxing, kind of like Italian cruisers. Like if you shoot semi-armor piercing, well, yeah, you'll be doing a good job. Um, But if a cruiser goes flat broadside and you know for a fact you can Citadel, then why wouldn't I want to get that, triple, quadruple Citadel that I know I can get with the Venezia, right? It's kind of like one of those things. You want to min max a little bit so you can take advantage and be a little bit of an opportunist with switching with your different armament types. And that is kind of where I think this thing shines at. I think your knowledge of the San Diego will and your overall gameplay like results will go get exorbitantly better by utilizing both ammunition types. So definitely don't be that one person that just sticks with sap the entire game, because there's definitely time and a place to be utilizing both ammunition types. Clocking in on the torpedoes here, we have 2 times 4, 533 mounts. These are the typical Atlanta 4.5 kilometer torpedoes. They don't have the best firing angles either, because that one turret here, let me see if I can show you guys this turret. Like, what is this? 4 and 5 kind of block your torpedo angles firing rear, and then obviously these AA mount, these Orlikins here will the 20 mils, right? They will block your torpedo angle from going a little bit forward. So you have to show up basically flat broadside to utilize these torpedoes. And at 4.5 kilometers, it's not hard to miss your target, right? These torpedoes do reload in 87 seconds. Maximum damage of these torps are 16,600 basically with some change. Gale 65 knots with a 1.3 uh, I guess, detectability range of the torpedoes. And that's giving us a what a reaction time about 7.4 seconds. Usually, I mean, people should know by now that the Atlanta class cruisers, other than the Flint, which I think which is the upgraded one, is it like the Jeanneau kind of class? I don't know. If you know, please and all by all means enlighten me. I'm just gonna call it an Atlanta style ship, Atlanta class style ship, because it basically is. Has the 9.2 kilometer torpedoes, where the other two have the 9 point, or sorry, the 4.5. The other one, the Chum Fun, that one's a little bit different, just because that is Pan Asian and they want to make use of the deep water torpedoes. That's kind of their thing over there, right? So, again, you have the torpedoes, but this, again, don't pay too much mind to them. One thing to note is you do actually have the airstrike depth charge, or the airstrikes on this thing, depth charge airstrikes, right? Which is nice. They're not ship mounted, so you can indeed support your destroyers and ships with this, rather than having to sail your ship over top of submarines to then dump your depth charge load on top of them. So that's always nice, especially on cruisers, right? If your cruiser has ship-based ASW, it is a little bit of a hindrance, I think, and a little bit of a downgrade, just because you have to then sail your ship in a position that's usually not favorable to then dump your charges, rather than just potentially stay within your smoke screen or island or a little bit farther back behind cover and then dump them, right? Or you could do it basically remaining undetected as well. So now, here is something that we need to talk about. Now, usually when I mention AA, I'm like, not really much to talk about. It's AIDS, it's shit. Um, Not with the San Diego, okay? And the reason the San Diego doesn't have bad AA, obviously, one is because of its history and relevance, right? But it is an Atlanta style that actually has adequate AA, coupled with its defensive AA consumable that I think a lot of people just they kind of write off with this thing. The AA consumable too, if I'm not mistaken, is improved. I believe it is improved. It has the continuous AA damage of plus 100% rather than the 50%. And its action time is 30 seconds, and its cooldown is 60, and you have about 4 charges base, which is incredible, right? This is kind of like the one you see like on the American DDs, I think, with like the kid as well, if I'm not mistaken. Again, if I'm wrong here, you know, please by all means rip in the comments and tell me, Floppy, you're fucking smoking the wacky tobacco here, because obviously you're not reading the consumable charts. Okay, I'm trying to recycle a lot of this shit off memory, which I shouldn't be doing. But again, I'm real. I'm not scripted. I just want to be out there talking to everybody and making sure I get that information out there. And again, it's all about a discussion here. If you want to, mention something in the comments, either correct me in something, or bring up a good valid point or whatever, I usually respond. I'm pretty active with that. My phone goes off 24/7, or if I'm on the computer, my YouTube website, it pings me or whatever. So like by all means, just let me know. So then we can have a discussion about it and talk about it, because I know one of the mines video, a fellow sub here did actually mention about a full like lighthouse build, and it was interesting because I'm like that. I've actually never thought about doing that, and I might have to try that out. So, but going back to the San Diego, going at all the hard numbers on the anti-aircraft is awesome. Like your long range DPS, which is clocking in at what 5.8 kilometers, is 151 DPS. Your medium range at 3.5 is 82, and then your short range DPS is 98, and that's 2 point what yeah 2.0 kilometers with a flat count of 6.1. Um, yeah, this ship slaps aircraft. I've deplaned enterprises with this thing. Again, I think it comes down to the skill of the aircraft carrier player and knowing how to dodge incoming flak and knowing when my defensive AA is up to recall his squadron or sail them or fly them, excuse me, out of my A or range. But yeah, I mean, I go full bore with the AA build. As you saw with my build, I think it is the superior way to play this ship. And again, there could be some of you that are wrong, like they say that I'm wrong about that and say floppy, like why that aircraft carriers are so hit or miss anyways. They're not in every game. In my experience at tier 8 and especially tier 6, I mean, I'm getting CVs. I would probably venture to say one out of every 4 games I'm getting CV games. And it also depends on when you play, midday versus at night, or whenever you clock on or log on to the server. It definitely varies. But this ship in particular, like if I'm getting fed up with carriers, and I find myself in a carrier game, this ship is more than enough to deal with aircraft carriers. Obviously, when you go to tier 10, you take that jump, and you're dealing with tier 10 carriers. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it struggles, but it definitely doesn't shoot down as many as it would be dealing with like a tier 8 or God forbid a tier 6. So there is a little bit of like, matchmaker dependency in that regard. But it still can shoot down planes. And I think if you're going for E ranks, if you're going for just overall damage numbers or plane kills or whatever it is, this ship can get it done for you, especially with future dockyard missions like shoot down this many aircraft or whatever. This ship is going to help you out a lot with that, guys, a lot with that. So keep that in mind. Going to the maneuverability of the ship, and I want to make sure I have the right numbers right on this. So it is 32.5 knots, max speed, rudder shift of 7.3, and a turning circle radius of 610 meters with that acceleration of 26.1 seconds to reach full speed from a standstill. Um, that is not bad. Obviously, this ship does take full advantage of getting behind islands and using that island coverage, though you have to be a little further back from the islands because your shell velocity is just a tad bit better than that of the, well, not a tad bit, but it's a little bit better than the out of the Atlanta. So you're going to have to factor that in on your positioning route. But this ship can also get away with doing a little open water shenanigans. And I'm going to get into that here once I start talking about the consumables after I touch base in on the concealment. Obviously, the concealment of the ship's base detection is 11.43 kilometers. With the concealment module, which I highly recommend taking on the ship, you get it down to 10.3, and you go ahead and get it down to 9.3 when you apply your commander concealment captain skill perk on that, I guess, as well. Which 9.3 is awesome, very usable. You can catch a lot of ships off guard. It allows you to get in certain advantageous positions. So overall, pretty solid with that. But like I was touching base on what the ship allows when you are, excuse me, when you are, so if you don't want to do the island camping thing, or if the island camping thing just isn't in the cards based upon the map or the current situation, this ship can get away with open water gunboating a little bit, okay? And the reason for that is because you have access to this repair party. And the repair party is a pretty standard repair party. Obviously, you heal 139 HP a second, lasts 28 seconds, cooldown of 80 seconds, and you have 3 base, so 4 with superintendent. But that being said, on this ship with that consumable, the healing consumable that is, this ship does have, I think, a little bit of an improved Citadel repair on this ship, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to make sure I get this information right. Um, yes, so you could heal 50% of your Citadel damage. So a Citadel, ribbons on you, you can heal back 50% of that rather than I think it's the standard 10%. I think a little bit of improved is like a 33%, and then like I don't know what you want to call it, like further improved is the 50% sit repaired. So it is like a little slightly like a improved repair party in the essence if you happen to eat Citadel ribbons, which most likely will happen at times. Um, you have a little bit of a safety net there, knowing that you could still. It basically just like a standardized heal. It's just healing, regardless if you take Citadel or not. It's just going to be able to give you a little bit more HP to play with, which is super nice. Just because we all know Atlanta class cruisers. definitely do not shrug off shells incredibly well, especially because they're so light that enemy destroyers can citadel you as well. And just going over our consumable loadout as well, we might as well, since we're here, you have this hydroacoustic search that ship detect at 5 and detection of torpedoes at 3.5. You have the defensive AA, which is improved, right, with the 100% continuous damage rather than just the 50, and the shell explosion or shell damage or whatever is plus 300%, which again is pretty standard. And you have this main battery reload booster. Obviously, I have not mentioned the main battery reload booster yet until now, and that was for a certain reason. This main battery load booster is not your typical main battery load booster. Usually you see like the minus 50%, right? Um, this is the minus 33.3, so this is going to allow you to get a couple extra salvos off in that span of 15 seconds. So your reload, like I said, was 5.5, and then you're going to have 15 seconds of consumable, reducing that by 33.3%. So what is that? About 4 to 5 salvos that you can get off if you time your consumable right, that you can dish out the pain to enemy ships. Obviously, I would say in this part, like I have with the Austin at times and other reload, boosting ships, you can do this to min-max HE. So if a ship damage cons, like a battleship damage cons 1 fire, you can pop this and you can just spam HE and get those 2-3 permanent fires. Obviously, we don't have HE, right? So why do we have a main battery reload booster? This is going to allow our, I guess, a little lengthy reload of 5.5 for 127 mils guns. This is going to allow us to, at times, in certain pinches, to get off more, more shells downrange than you would normally be able to do. So if destroyers, present themselves at certain situations, if you're in close quarters with a low HP battleship and you're shooting armor piercing into his broadside, or cruisers too, right? If you need to out DPM that cruiser for a short period of time to give you the advantage in the engagement, that's when we're going to utilize this main battery reload booster, not for the HE spamming, obviously, because we don't have that. So yeah, guys, that finishes up our port analysis of the USS San Diego. Some things about her that I want to touch on before I get into battle. I think she's a great ship, and I definitely 100% think that you should, regardless if you're trying to go for San Diego or not, participate in this in the name of tomorrow operations and do those. Even if you have to play the operations multiple times, they are a lot of fun. I always thought about doing a video illustrating or talking about tactics with that. But at the end of the day, guys, I can sit here and tell you what I would recommend you do and what ships I would recommend for the operations, blah, blah, and so and so. But at the end of the day, operations are very team oriented. And I, I can't believe I'm saying that because, obviously this game tries to portray itself as a team game, though we kind of know it's kind of not. But it is going to help you a lot if your teammates are competent and understand the operation some way, shape, or form. So if I sit here and say you got to do this strategy, go to A, B, C, D, and then here. But if your teammates don't do that, well, then you're kind of shit out of luck, right? So that's why I'm not opting to do that. But again, perseverance will allow you to get what you need to acquire to get the San Diego, hopefully. So, and I can give you 2 thumbs up for this ship. So, anyways, guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and check her out in battle, shall we? Alrighty, guys, and here we are in battle with the USS Whale's Vagina. Anyways, so I know I didn't mention enough about the captain build and the port screen because I kind of just, at this point, I'm used to you guys kind of seeing it first glance of at the beginning of the video. And I know I don't do a good enough job talking about why I do certain things I do, so I'm going to attempt to do that now. But basically, I want to make sure I highlight the captain build at the beginning because it showcases how I'm building the ship. And for anyone out there that doesn't really know how to build the ship, or kind of like just needs a push in the general direction of what they should be doing, that's kind of why I do that first, just so it helps illustrate that and gives you guys kind of the beginning to a build. And again, you guys can alter the build on what you think you need or more. So it's kind of just a foundation or a guideline that I would set towards. Obviously, with the San Diego, I'm going for a full AA spec. That's just kind of my thing. I think it'd be kind of stupid not to do that, just because that's the sole purpose of the ship, to be to basically be a sap spamming monster at tier 8, and allow you to be a anti-aircraft platform that really nullifies enemy aircraft, right? So, and I think this is a really good game that highlights a lot of this stuff. So, anyways, without further ado, let's talk about the tactics that I recommend with her. So, first things first, I always, because I have a heal and you're stealthy, I want to try to get myself into a position where I know I can put an island between myself and the vast majority of targets. Obviously, your nemesis is just like that of any other cruiser, which is the battleship, and I want to make sure that I can put myself um, in a situation that I'm concealing myself from the vast majority of enemy battleships, because one good battleship salvo can end your game fairly early. I mean, you only have what, 27,000 and some change HP. Even yes, I know you have that heal, but again, that's not a whole lot of HP, and that'll you'll go down to like 5-10k with a couple sits or whatever it may be, real quick, right? Real quick. So but yeah, so obviously in the beginning of the game, I want to make sure that I'm using SAP for the vast majority of the time. Now, why is this? Obviously, SAP is an incredibly strong ammunition type, especially when targets fail to angle towards you and fail to I guess, just maneuver in general. As long as if they're staying flat or slightly angled, or I can pinpoint like certain aspects or certain parts of the ship, I can really bring out and dish out the pain to a lot of these vessels. That's what I'm doing. Again, utilizing the island coverage. Now, obviously, notice how I'm pre-kited back in this position. Now, why is this? One, I'm utilizing it because my shell velocity, as you can see, is a little bit better than of the Atlanta, right? So I have to be further back from the island anyways to make sure I can shoot across or over the island, excuse me. But also, I know that enemy submarine is somewhere lurking around these parts. I was able to land a couple depth charge strikes on him. So I know at any point in time he's going to either try to ping me or he's going to be detected. There he is, sure enough. And I'm going to go ahead and drop my ASW on him as well. Now remember, when you take the two corresponding captain perks that are going to buff your AA, they're on the far right side there of the captain skill tree. You're also theoretically or indirectly buffing your ASW. So I mean, I think my bomb damage on this thing is easily in the 4,000 something range for just like overall damage I can do. So this thing, especially at tier 8, catches a lot of submarines off guard when when you drop your ASW on them. Obviously, the Pensacola is flat, so I went ahead and popped my main battery reload booster to try to dish out as much pain as possible. But again, he is able to dodge a couple of these salvos almost completely just because he angled. So it's one of those things you want to make sure that if you're popping, because you only have what, 2 base, 3 with superintendent, you want to make sure you're making good use of these main battery reload boosters. And if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have popped my defensive AA, or sorry, my defensive AA, my main battery reload booster as early. I probably would have waited till I got a little bit closer, closed the distance to ensure that I was landing more of my semi-armor piercing on target. Obviously, the Pensacola is no slouch. The Pensacola has those, what, it's 10 or 12. I think it's 10 203 millimeter guns that hit like an absolute truck, especially for this tier at tier 6. So I have to honor that and respect that as well. But with an inexperienced Pensacola commander or a Pensacola commander that is just panicking, his turret traverse is so freaking dog shit that it's hard once you're in those active maneuvering scenarios to really get your turrets to bear. So I'm going to try to take full advantage of that. Obviously, you can see with the main battery reload booster down, your DPM definitely does drop. I know I didn't touch base on the SAP DPM or the AP DPM. I know for a fact that the SAP DPM crosses over the 200,000 mark, and I know it is indeed higher than that of the Amalfi, just because the ship can fire faster. And that's what basically it boils down to. I mean, I know the Amalfi has 9 203 millimeter guns, but when you have what? I mean, is it 15? Yeah, so around there, 15, something like around there of 127 millimeter guns. I mean, that's a lot of shells going down range. So you can definitely crank out the DPM. So this is definitely a destroyer's worst nightmare when you're at, point blank, right? So definitely if you're a DD, you got to be aware of where this thing is at, because this thing will melt you, especially with that main battery reload booster up. So but yeah, you can see that even when we were, we were able to engage ships in open ocean, I guess if you want to call it, we have that safety net of the heel, which I've been doing a good job actively maneuvering, which again takes me to another point of the ship. These Atlanta style, class style of ships, including with that the Austin as well. The profile of the ship is incredibly slim, so you can really throw off a lot of people's aim with these ships, and they actually don't make that that bad of an open water platform because you can, as long as you know how to dodge in this game effectively and utilize the ship's maneuverability and propulsion modifications to your advantage, like acceleration, whatnot. You really can dodge pretty damn effectively well against players with the ship in open ocean. Again, I wouldn't recommend it, especially not early game with there's being, there being too many ships, in the battle. Definitely you want to utilize your island coverage and shoot from behind cover. But with that being said, as we go later on in the game or with certain scenarios arise, you definitely can get away a little bit more than some cruisers can at this tier. Obviously, tier 8 is what I like to call the paid I guess repair party tier because this is like you have the Atago, just to name a couple, and the Bargration. A lot of these tier 8 cruisers, premium cruisers have the heal that obviously you have to pay for to get. Usually tech line or tech tree, tech line base, you're not getting a heal at this tier. Usually there are some variations or some exceptions, excuse me. But yeah, the it's usually you pay for the heal at this tier. Again, just like you kind of like I made that Indianapolis battle report, you're kind of paying for the radar down at tier 7. It's a thing that Wargaming does. It's a business tactic. It's whatever. Does it make it all right? No, absolutely not. I'm not going to sit here and defend that and say makes it okay. But you can see what they're doing from a business side of things. I can 100% see what they're doing. So again, look what my defensive AA and my age in general is able to do to the B-25 Mitchell bombers or whatever. It is pretty crazy. I think earlier in the game I was able to shred an entire squadron of the B-25s, and there I think he gives 3 or 2 that are able to drop their payload on me, which again still do a sizable amount of damage. But imagine how much more damage I would have taken if I wouldn't have shot down any, right? So, and that's where most cruisers are in the boat of against fighting against those things. I mean, usually you're lucky to shoot down even one of those bad boys. It's kind of standard. But let alone what 3 or 4 of those, it's not bad. Okay. Again, you have to understand how AA is designed in this game. They don't want AA to shred an entire squadron. They still want that aircraft carrier player to get off their strike. But if you can minimize that strike and minimize the amount of damage that potentially could be done to your ship, that's kind of what they're thinking, and you have to realize that's how it is, sadly. And then after he drops the strike and I was able to dodge, and that's when you go ahead and shred the rest of the squadron, because by the time it takes him to either get out of your A or recall a squadron or try to turn around and strike you again, the AA of the San Diego is just too incredibly strong that it will indeed shred this Hornet's aircraft. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to really touch base on the San Diego. I mean, obviously she is light. She is a fragile cruiser, so you don't want to go around sailing like you would in some cruisers. And again, you don't want to rely on angling too much and angling to in regards to like ricocheting shells. I think your best bet is just to flat out dodge the shell entirely. Because unless you get the 30-degree auto ricochet bounce, you're really not going to be ricocheting that much. I mean, with the occasional maybe turret hit that bounces or the belt armor that angles just right, that able to ricochet, like you're really not going to. You think your best bet with the slim profile, the maneuverability of the ship, all that jazz, just dodge the entire salvo entirely. I know the whole just dodge thing, right, with the in air quotes, it does suck, but your ship is just so fragile. There's no way it can withstand even a couple salvos of larger calibers AP in this game. So you're gonna have to keep that in mind. Again, Italian SAP will chew this thing up as well. Just because you're a lightly armored target, it can basically pen you anywhere and everywhere. And again, don't even get me started on the larger caliber SAP from that of ships like the Veneno, the Lepanto, and God forbid if you run into a Colombo. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can just get actually blapped because you have 89 millimeters of Citadel armor. So, which the Colombo I believe can pen is at 102 millimeters. I'm not sure what the Lepanto can do. Is Lepanto 90 something? I'm pretty sure. Or maybe I don't know. I digress. But yeah, I mean, hopefully I did a good job of highlighting what this ship can do, its strengths, its weaknesses, stuff like that. And hopefully I was able to sell you guys on why I think you guys should go ahead and try to get this ship. This is a fantastic little premium ship that not only will earn you net credit income worth, but also go ahead and be an excellent crew trainer as well for you. And without further ado, I will go ahead and see myself out by leaving you guys on the post-battle screen. Stay tuned for more videos, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace out.